Mr. President, the American people are saying, why can't those guys get together up there and get something done? They're saying, whatever happened to common sense? They say, people out of work, why can't you extend their unemployment benefits? All of this is what the vast majority of American people are saying, and yet we allowed, over 2 weeks ago, the unemployment compensation to cease for certain people that are hurting in this country. And it is important for us now to temporarily extend this unemployment and the extension of the ability of someone who's out of work to continue their health insurance payments through what is known as the COBRA program. Folks are hurting in most of the country, and they certainly are in my state. We have over 40% of Florida homeowners are underwater in their mortgages, and the banks are pulling back on the credit to small businesses. Our people are hurting, and it's our responsibility to extend these programs to provide some little pittance for people who can't get work and they financially have a desperate need. And unfortunately, for many Americans, these benefits are the only thing that is keeping food on the table as they struggle to find a job and to make financial ends meet. And so, I certainly hope that we're not going to let these programs lapse again. There are encouraging signs in the economy, but it's going to be a long way, and unemployment always lags the recovery of other parts of the economy. And therefore, we need to give some little measure of stability to these people, these poor families who are out of work, instead of us continuing to have this partisan gamesmanship that we've seen so often over the course of the last couple of months. Now, Mr. President, after this, and we will get it done, then we're going to take on financial reform. Well, while we're seeing some slight improvement in both the markets and the economy as a whole, too many people remain unemployed and underemployed. In my state of Florida, the unemployment rate has surpassed 12%. It's now the 6th highest in the country. And since that crisis began back in the fall of 2008, a lot has happened. We elected a new president. We passed an economic recovery bill. We passed health insurance and health reform. We passed an enhanced home buyer tax credit. We've passed innumerable measures of tax relief for small businesses. But there's one thing that we have yet to do that is at the top of the list, and that is to try to help clean up Wall Street and our excesses in the financial system. We owe it to our taxpayers so that they're not facing a $700 billion bailout in the future, and never again to use that money to bail out reckless and freewheeling Wall Street bankers. Our colleagues on the Banking Committee have put forth one proposal. It includes a new consumer financial watchdog. It also includes new rules for the regulation of derivatives. But when that legislation comes to the floor, We must strengthen it, improve the legislation to rein in the greed that ran amok, that nearly brought down our entire financial system altogether. Now, of course, what we can expect, we're going to have a vast army of lobbyists that are going to descend to protect the various financial fiefdoms from the new transparency and accountability rules. I'm going to offer a number of amendments on the floor. I want to mention one today. The Wall Street Compensation Reform Act. This bill that I have already offered, that I will offer as an amendment, hopefully would restore some sanity and common sense to executive pay and their practices on Wall Street. The legislation is simple. It encourages large banks and financial institutions to adopt widely accepted compensation practices. Banks that fail to adopt those standards would lose the benefit of certain tax deductions. They could no longer deduct the large compensation payments that they make to highly paid employees. I have read with astonishment the recent reports that Wall Street banks continue to pay outlandish bonuses to undeserving executives. And many of these institutions, and this is what gets your blood pressure going up, many of these institutions are still living on taxpayer-funded life support. In most business professions, executive pay will follow performance. Managers and executives usually are rewarded for creating lasting value. Unsuccessful managers and executives are shown the door. But apparently these basic common sense principles have been lost on a lot of the Wall Street firms. This year, Wall Street bonuses were in the range of $150 billion. 18 months after the fall of Lehman Brothers, it's back to business as usual for the major banks. And we've been here before. We had the same debate last spring when AIG paid those absurd bonuses to the financial traders that managed one major accomplishment. They drove their company into the ground. And although we had lots of legislation introduced, Congress again failed to act. The army of lobbyists descended to make sure that was the case. And Mr. President, here we are again. Real and meaningful financial reform must include changes to the existing compensation culture in the finance industry. We're going to have the opportunity to take real steps to reform compensation practices. And it's my hope, perhaps naively so, that the United States Senate would unanimously improve this concept. It won't be unanimous, but I believe that we can get 60 votes to break a filibuster, and I think we can pass it. The American taxpayers' funds are at stake.